there are people here that still don't believe I should be chief, and they're entitled to their beliefs. But when I give an order, they also have to abide by the orders that I give. So I just, again, yeah, I try not to take anything personally. I don't hold grudges. I just let things go. I hope to bring people along, even if I have to slowly pull them along. And then if they don't want to go with the program, then maybe they don't belong here.
Brothers and sisters, brothers and sisters, I don't know what this world is coming to.
You're listening to the Black and Blue Podcast, a discussion and celebration of the roles of African Americans and other minorities in U.S. law enforcement. Your host on the Black and Blue Podcast is Dale Peters, a law enforcement professional with over 20 years experience in the business. Hop on board this Black and Blue train of interviews, current events, and pop culture conversations. So get ready. The Black and Blue Podcast is coming at you right now. What up, fam? Welcome to the Black and Blue Podcast, where we celebrate diversity in U.S. law enforcement. My name, of course, is Dale, and I'm the host. Thank you for stopping by because this is the place for 100% authentic interviews with law enforcement. But before we get to today's guest, let me ask y'all, please click those like, subscribe, and bell icons right down here on my YouTube channel. And if you listen to me on your favorite podcast platform, make sure you rate the Black and Blue Podcast 5 stars. And finally, make sure you check me out on any one of my social media pages for even more content. You can find me everywhere at Black and Blue US. All right, so with that down, hey, let's get to it. My guest today is the Chief of Police of a beautiful community up in the San Francisco Bay Area. So everybody, help me welcome to the Black and Blue Podcast, Richmond, California Police Chief, Bisa French. How you doing, Chief?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Excellent, excellent. How's your day shaping out today?
Not too bad. It's actually been pretty busy today. We started off with a swearing-in ceremony where we swore in 5 new police officers. So those are always great opportunities, great connection points for us, and recognizing our new professional employees too. So started off busy.
That's great, great. How many did you swear in today? 5, you said?
5 new police officers, yes.
Nice, nice. How long, not long, but how large is Richmond?
So the police department, we're authorized to have about 145 officers, and that number is even low for us, but that's what our authorized number is right now. We only have about 125 police officers right now. We were defunded back in 2021, and so while we used to have about 200 police officers for our city, that number has slowly decreased because of budgets over the last probably 7 to 8 years. And then in 2021, when we had the defunding movement, we lost a significant amount of positions. So we're down to 145.
Yeah, yeah. And I've noticed, as a result of a lot of that defunding, a lot of communities nowadays are finding that that wasn't the best course of action, and they kind of want to get back to previous levels. Have you seen that within Richmond?
Yeah, well, so we haven't seen that yet because we haven't even been able to maintain the level of 145 officers. So what I do see from the community is that they are not receiving the services that they used to receive when we had a lot more police officers, and they are craving and wanting those services. So we used to be at every community event. We had a traffic unit, which we don't currently have right now. We had ancillary units to really deal with the quality of life issues that people experience and probably have a bigger impact than a lot of the violent crime issues. And because we're unable to really pay a lot of attention to those quality of life issues, the community is like, where are our officers? What's going on? And when we tell them, well, those were all the officers that we used to have that, our city council said we didn't need. And now, this is the result. And so we do have a lot more community members paying attention to what's going on in the police department and demanding more officers. And so once we get up to that 145 number, then we'll have the community pushing for us to have even more than that because they want us to be able to respond when they call.
Right, right. Let's talk a little bit about Richmond. Where exactly is that in relation to, the big cities like we all know, San Francisco and Oakland and all that?
Right. So we're in the San Francisco Bay Area. We are about 30 minutes from San Francisco, about 20 minutes from Oakland. We are between like Berkeley. We're very close to UC Berkeley and Vallejo. So those are kind of the major cities in our area, and we kind of sit in the middle of that. So we are in the Bay.
All right, all right. And how long have you been there?
So I started my career here in 1998. So I've been here for 26 years, almost 27 years, and love it. I've born in San Francisco, raised in the East Bay. So, California's always been home. Haven't left here, and I love it.
Okay, okay. So you were born and raised up in the Bay, and what was your calling to law enforcement and Richmond to begin with?
Sure. So, yes, I was born in San Francisco, like I said, raised in the East Bay. Have been in California, the San Francisco Bay Area my entire life. Um, I guess my calling into law enforcement was the first recollection I have of wanting to be a police officer was when I was a young girl in elementary school. And I lived in a small city that's called San Pablo, which city of Richmond completely surrounds the city of San Pablo. But as a small child in San Pablo, there were still a lot of members of the KKK in that small little town. And I can remember walking to school one day with my brother and seeing KKK written on the fence and on the sidewalk. And back then, I was probably in third grade, maybe second, third grade. And I asked my brother, what does that mean? Because it gave me an uneasy feeling. And he said, those are white people that want to kill all the black people. And I'm like, well, why aren't they in jail? And, there was really no answer. So that was my first kind of thought that, well, if somebody's doing something bad and, they should go to jail. And if when I get older, I'm going to make sure that, I can put people in jail so that people feel safe. And I wanted that sense of safety back then. And so I guess that was the kind of first seed that was planted within me. And just went from there. As I got older, I started continually thinking, well, I didn't want a job that was behind the desk, even though I sit behind a desk every day now as a chief.
Now you do. Now you do.
Now I do. But I like interacting with people. I wanted to be able to interact with people, do something different every day. And so, I just had this calling for law enforcement. And after high school, I had a life-changing experience. I had a child, when I was 18. So I really need to figure out a way that I was going to support myself and my son. And so I thought, if I'm going to do this law enforcement thing, it's like now or never. And so I decided to start applying with departments. And Richmond picked me up and put me through the police academy, and I've been here ever since.
All right. And what was your career journey through Richmond? What have you done? I know, of course, you went through the FTO program, you're on patrol for a while, and then since then, what have you done?
Sure. So as a young officer, I worked community policing, bike patrol. I did a lot of different assignments back then. Then I went into our detective bureau. I worked in our family services unit as a detective. I worked property crimes. Then I started thinking about promoting. And so I promoted to the rank of sergeant and worked a lot of different positions. Then I became the PIO, Public Information Officer. And that really afforded me the opportunity to see a lot of different things within the department. And so I was PIO. I worked on several different assignments. One of the biggest accomplishments that I have throughout my career is developing a family justice center, which is a one-shop location that victims of interpersonal violence like domestic violence, sexual assault, elder abuse, child abuse, human trafficking, one place that they can go to receive services because our county is kind of spread out. And what we realized was, and what I really realized working in our family services unit, is that a lot of domestic violence victims went back to their offenders because it was too much of a challenge for them to go across the county to get a restraining order, to go to court, to do all these things that they needed to do to get themselves out of the situation. So we developed a family justice center here in Richmond where we co-located all of the resources in one place. So that's one of my huge accomplishments. One thing that I'm really proud of from throughout my career. So I worked family services and then promoted to the rank of lieutenant, where I was the chief of staff or the chief at the time. That also afforded me the opportunity to see a lot of different areas of the department, learn a lot of different things. And so I worked as a lieutenant. I was a watch commander, had the opportunity to test for and promote for captain. And I was the first African and Latina female captain in our department and the youngest to ever be promoted to that rank. So did that, and then just opportunities. You know, I've been blessed to have a lot of opportunities. Just right place, right time. A lot of people were leaving the department, retirements, and so I just had the opportunity to promote. And so I got the opportunity to promote to assistant chief in 2016, and again, youngest in the position. First woman in the position, and then another opportunity 3 years later when I was appointed as the interim chief of the department, and then a year later after that in 2020, in the midst of a pandemic, appointed to the permanent chief for the department.
Wow, and then what a time to be thrust in that position during the pandemic, right?
Yeah, so I was actually appointed as interim chief in September of 2019. Immediately after that, officer involved shooting. We've shooting at a high school. Just a lot of challenges leading up to the actual pandemic in March, and just leading an organization through a pandemic. Like, I've watched all the leaders in the department since I've been here, and watched what the chief does and our senior command staff. But having to do something that you've never seen done before and doing it on the fly was a difficult time, but we managed. We did lose a sergeant during COVID, a good friend of mine, and Virgil Thomas. And that was very difficult. And having a law enforcement funeral during a pandemic, like, all of those things were challenges that luckily we're able to overcome.
Yeah. You know, our profession was a little bit different during the pandemic in that we couldn't work from home, right? We still had to go and do what we do on a daily basis, calls for service, investigations, all those sorts of things. How did you weather the storm back then?
Well, I weathered the storm because I knew that our department needed leadership. We were just coming off of, you know, me being appointed as interim, and that was after a vote of no confidence in our last chief, unfortunately. And so there was a lot of, negative feelings around the department. Morale was down, and I just knew that the department needed leadership. And even though there was a lot of unknowns with managing a pandemic, I knew that communication was key. And so making sure that my officers were informed. I know that they were scared. People were, the unknown is scary, and we didn't know how, early on, how this was contracted, and, how to best protect ourselves. And so just reading all the information that I could and putting all that information out to our officers to make sure that they were staying safe were key components for me. I just wanted everybody to be informed, everybody to feel supported, letting them know that we were doing everything that we can to support them, because yes, they do have to come to work. We do still have a community to serve. And so I think communication was probably the biggest key during that time.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk about the community of Richmond. How large is the city and population and size, all that?
So the city of Richmond is a really rich, diverse community, and it's changed over the years. So when I came to the city of Richmond as a police officer, it was a mostly African American community. Probably over 40-something% were African American. Now that has changed, and now over 40% of our population are Latinos. And
Okay.
so I've seen a shift over the time that I've been here. We have about 54 square miles. 26 of them are land miles. The rest is shoreline. So we are in the actual San Francisco Bay. We have a shoreline. And like I said, we have a really rich, diverse community, a lot of African American, a lot of Latinos, and then, others sprinkled out throughout there. And so just like yesterday was Cinco de Mayo, and we had thousands and thousands, probably over 10,000 people at a festival here in our community. So rich with experiences. This was a shipyard back in the during World War II, and we had shipyards where people, they built ships and
Mhm.
other, people came here for the jobs in the shipyards. A lot of people migrated from the South to Richmond for that purpose. And we've gone through a lot of difficult times here in the city of Richmond.
Yep.
Back in the 80s, we were one of the most violent communities across the nation. We were always within the top 5 of the most violent cities across the nation, having 60 plus homicides a year for a city population size of about 110,000. We
Wow.
probably have closer to about 130, 140,000 in our population with our undocumented community. But like I said, we've done a lot. So back when I was on the streets in the 90s and early 2000s, we had a huge problem with homicides. Like I
Yep.
said, 60 homicides a year. Last year, we had our lowest number ever recorded with 8 homicides. So we've made
All right.
significant strides in terms of addressing violent crime here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm what you call a hip hop head, and being down here in the Southern California area, we would hear about up there in Richmond through thanks to E40 and all those guys. So yeah, the
Tupac,
reputation, yeah,
yeah.
yep. So the reputation preceded itself down here hearing about Richmond. So yeah, I'm glad you guys have made
We're
some
all
some strides.
we were often compared to Compton. I mean, it was
Yes.
like Richmond and Compton were the two cities in California that, were similar to some of the East Coast cities that have, huge amounts of violent crime.
Yeah. Yep. But you guys have weathered the storm and gotten through that. Hopefully we'll stay that way. Hopefully I don't jinx anything.
Well, knock on wood.
Yeah, knock on wood there. Knock on wood. You mentioned that you came up when you had a young son you had to care for, and that was 20 something years ago. Has your son thought about mom being in this position? What do you think his his thoughts were of mom being a police officer?
So my son is my oldest son, because now I have 2 additional kids, so I have 3
Yep.
total. But the oldest one, I was a single mom with him, and I started when he was 4 years old. And so he came up through the police department just right along with me. And he was always proud. He was a kid that he didn't give me any problems or anything like that. So he was the perfect kid for me to be able to handle this career with. And um, he's super proud, and I'm super proud of him. He's actually turning 30 this week. He'll
Oh,
be
wow.
30 on Thursday, and in 2 weeks, he'll be graduating from Harvard Law School.
Oh,
So
wow.
he's doing
Congratulations.
great. Like again, super proud of him, and it's because of him that I've worked so hard and attained the achievements that I've been able to achieve because I wanted to be able to provide for him.
Yeah, yeah. So he didn't all the way follow in mom's footsteps, but law is
No.
still in that realm, right?
Yeah, but he's looking at defense, so
Oh,
he
okay.
took a turn somewhere, but nevertheless, I'm very
Yeah.
supportive.
Yeah, we need that part of the equation as well. They
Yeah,
always say, defense attorneys aren't liked until you need one, right?
right. And
Yeah.
I've needed
So,
one here and there, so
yeah. Yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, congratulations on that. And being a female in this profession couldn't have been easy for you, right?
no.
Yeah. Yeah,
No.
talk about your journey through some of the assignments and some of the I don't know about hardships. I won't speak for you, but the things you had to go through as a female in this male-dominated profession.
Right. So, like you said, this is a male-dominated profession, and not only a male-dominated profession, but a white male-dominated profession. So there's been some challenges around the way. I can remember early on as a sergeant, having somebody deliberately disobey an order that I gave to them. And I think it was just more of, how's she going to handle it? What is she going to do? And so I learned early on not to take anything personally and to handle everything professionally. So as I continued to do that throughout my career, I think that that's what gave me credibility amongst my staff, and helped me be successful in the roles that I've had here in the department. But like I said, there's been challenges. I can remember graduating the academy, and then when we came on here to the city of Richmond, we had another orientation where we had to do a week long firearms course because they want to make sure we were proficient in our firearms, not just from what the academy said, but our firearms instructors had to evaluate us. And I remember the first day of that training and having a very senior sergeant walk over to me and another Black female that I started with, who's now considered one of my sisters, um, and looked us up and down with a cigar coming out of his mouth and flames, going in our faces, and looking us up and down and asking us what we were doing there. And it was in a way that made me at least feel like, he didn't want us there. But like I said before, I had a young child at the time and I wasn't going to let anybody get in my way. So, you had to push through some of those challenges where you knew that the feeling of people not wanting you, but you just pushed through and did your job, and ultimately, gained the respect of my coworkers.
Yeah.
But it was challenging. It's still challenging as the chief. I mean, there are people here that still don't believe I should be chief, and they're entitled to their beliefs. But when I give an order, they also have to abide by the orders that I give. So
Absolutely.
I just, again, yeah, I try not to take anything personally. I don't hold grudges. I just let things go. I hope to bring people along, even if I have to slowly pull them along. And then if they don't want to go with the program, then maybe they don't belong here.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me play devil's advocate here for a minute. And you went through the academy, and when was that? 98?
98.
Yeah. So, and I went through in 96. So, things are a little bit different now in academies than they were, say, back then, where they
Yes.
could, kind of chirp at you a little bit more than they do nowadays.
Yeah.
But is it possible that they were just being drill instructors, TAC officers, and really testing you to make you want to quit and to see if you had the resolve to stay, because that's probably what you're going to get when you got into the field. That's what they always say in the academy. This is the kind of treatment you're going to get out in the field, and you can't pop off and you can't quit. So we're going to give it to you here in a controlled environment so that you can learn to, kind of toughen up.
Yeah, I actually, in the academy, I didn't really have those challenges in terms of having female recruits there. I think we were all pretty much treated equally. It was when I came to the department that I had
Okay.
more of those challenges, and it wasn't just, making sure that I was tough enough to do the job. It was holding me to a different standard that others were held to. So there was definitely a difference. I can remember other females coming in that were not of color and them being helped along and even just not held to the same standard. Definitely not held to the same standard.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And now we've got the 30 by 30 initiative. How is that working with your agency? Are you a part of that initiative, and how's it coming along?
Absolutely. I actually just last month, sat on a panel for the 30 by 30 initiative. And for those that don't know, it's the initiative to get 30% of females in law enforcement in every aspect. So not just as police officers, but in ranks, being promoted into different ranks, being um, acknowledged in different assignments like detectives and homicide and all of those assignments that typically a lot of males tend to get. And so we've been a part of the initiative for several years now. We actually have over 20% females in our department, which is high. Most departments only have about 12% females across the country. That's kind of the average, that there's 12% females in the profession. And then in terms of police chiefs, that's even lower. 3% of us represent 3% females representative of police chiefs across the country. And then females of color, it's even probably less than 1%.
Yeah. Have you found in your career, just I'm sure you've spoken to and you've observed even females in other agencies as well, that maybe females are pigeonholed into certain kind of assignments, and you were just talking about being in homicide and SWAT even, but pigeonholed into, say, school resource officer or sex crimes detectives and things of
Yep.
that nature.
Absolutely. I've seen that throughout my career. And I could tell you that when I was able to start sitting at the table as a senior command level officer, that's when I was able to start really challenging back then our senior command staff, because I saw, like when promotional time came around and we would be talking about different candidates, and I saw the difference in how the men talked about the male candidates to get promoted. And I heard things like, oh, he's very smart, he'll catch on very quickly, oh, he'll get it, he'll do great. And then when we talked about the female candidates, I would hear, oh yeah, she'll be great at some point, she just needs more time. And so when I started challenging, well, they have the same amount of time, what's the difference between him and her? Like, why does she need more time but he doesn't? Why will he catch on very easily but she won't? And so I started challenging my counterparts in those conversations. And I don't think I don't think it was any malice or bad will or anything like that, but I do think that because this is a male dominated field, that there are opportunities for males to get additional access to people making key decisions that women don't always get that access to. So for example, males might go out for drinks together later, and sometimes the females are included, sometimes they're not. They might go golfing where typically not a lot of women golf, and so the people making the decisions might have greater access to the male candidates, and so they get to know them better. And when you know somebody better, you know what their experiences are, you have more of a connection to them than when you are making decisions about promotions or where to put people. You're probably going to advocate for somebody that you know better. And so there's recognizing that there's not the same opportunities for women. I would bring that into the conversation. And luckily, we were able to, have some really good discussions about, our biases and how some of these things play a part in and why women are, like you said, pigeonholed into certain assignments and what our real potential is and what opportunities we should be given.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting you brought up some of those things, some people, go off and drink together or golf together. Those are some of the same sorts of things that we hear with, officers of color, specifically, African Americans, you and I both being African Americans, that, people making those decisions to who to promote and who to put in special assignments. Maybe they all group together, and it's just human nature to go golf together, go off and drink together and things of that nature. So they know each other. Is maybe that can kind of be a reason to advocate more towards more of a merit base or just a straight numerical testing knowledge sort of process, so that those biases aren't really in the equation.
Yeah, I think that we need to look at all of our practices and make sure that, those biases don't play a part. And the legacy, for a lot of white officers, there's a legacy of my dad was a police officer, my grandfather, and we don't have those same legacies. Nobody in my family was a police officer. I had to figure it out for myself. And so I think that there's something to say about, how we look at promotional practices, how we look at, the opportunities that are given and who they're given to, and how we can make it more equitable.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of family, what was the family thinking about when young Bisa was thinking about, hey, I wanted to be a police officer?
They were thinking, if are you crazy? You have this young
Right.
child, like.
Yeah.
They were
In
but
Richmond.
very supportive, right? And Richmond, yes, I think they
Yeah.
were more concerned about me working in Richmond than being a police officer because they knew how challenging Richmond was. But
Yeah.
my parents are extremely supportive and have supported me in every effort along the way. So, when I worked nights and needed somebody to watch my son, they were right there. And then I got married, and my spouse was very supportive, and so I'm just very blessed and lucky to have a real supportive support system.
Yeah. Yeah. And support system, at home and friends and family is one thing we all need for our mental wellness to help us through these situations. It sounds like you had a great support system. How about professionally? Did you have a mentor, any sets of mentors that kind of helped you attain the goals that you wanted to be?
So I had some advocates. Two of our my two former police chiefs were very supportive of me and advocated for me and put me in positions to learn different um, realms of our department. So to set me up for success. In terms of mentorship, though, I didn't have a lot of mentors within the field of law enforcement. There were a couple people that can go and throw ideas off of, but a lot of my mentors are not in the field, and I have a group of women that I've surrounded myself with that just have helped me push through difficult situations.
Yeah, yep. And now that you are the chief, and before that, you were the assistant and climbing the ranks, were you able to be that sort of mentor for others?
I definitely try to be that for others because I knew how it felt not to have that,
Yeah,
um, and especially as a woman. So I try to reach down. I've always been a proponent of, as much as I climb, I need to bring somebody up with me. And so just really mentoring, coaching, especially one of the biggest um, things I try to assist with is making sure that we're setting our our young people, our young officers up for success in every realm of their life. We've really been focusing on organizational wellness. And a big component of that, especially when you're starting off, is financial wellness because you're coming into a profession where, like me, I hardly made any money. And then I got this job and now making more money than I ever had. And how do I make sure that, I'm setting myself up for retirement, even though, it's years down the line, but, somebody grabbed me, and said, "Hey, you need to sign up for deferred comp." And I'm like, "What is that?
yes,
I want my money right now." But,
right,
now as I'm getting close to retirement, I'm so grateful and thankful that, somebody made me do that because now I will be
yeah.
set up. And so I'm doing that for others,
Yeah, one
promoting
thing you
that.
see in our profession is with a lot of the young guys. I don't know about the females, but the guys, buying all
Want
the
toys.
toys,
They
all the
want
toys,
toys.
the
Yes.
boats, the quads, all that sort of stuff. And I
Do
guess
not
one
go
thing they
buy a
say
hundred and
about,
$25,000 Hellcat. Then no, that's
yeah,
not a good
yep,
financial
the Hellcats,
decision.
yeah, exactly. They say, what do they say? The two most popular or best parts of buying a boat is when you buy it and when you sell it.
Right.
Exactly.
But everybody wants their toys.
Yeah. Well, you guys are on the shore. And is it a boating community? Is it a beach? What sort of
So we have a
shoreline
little
do you guys
beach,
have?
but you don't want to get in this water. But we
Oh,
do
okay.
have,
All
like,
right.
our department has a couple of boats actually, and we go out because we're right across from San Francisco Bay, so we go out for Fleet Week, and we have a bridge that comes through our city. So unfortunately, sometimes we have jumpers that we have to go out there and
Yeah.
pull to shore. So but
So
it's
is it
not
more
a
like
huge.
it's more like
It
fishing?
Yeah, there's fishing around here and stuff like that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I love it up there. Me and the wife go up there a couple times a year. And one big thing you hear about specifically San Francisco, but probably the whole Bay Area is, for one, the politics, but two, the homelessness
Mm.
and, all that you see on the streets, the encampments, and not only that, but the needles and things of that nature. How are you guys getting a handle on all of that up there in Richmond?
So it's challenging. The unhoused situation is extremely challenging. Politics here are extremely challenging. Um, but we're trying to figure out solutions, and the solution is more housing. And so here in the city, we're actually trying to obtain more housing solutions for our unhoused population and more resources, because just because we have a housing solution doesn't mean that everybody's ready to go into a housing solution. If somebody's severely mentally ill or has a huge drug problem, putting them into housing isn't going to help that, because they're not going to be able to sustain that housing. So we're trying to figure out ways to support our unhoused in a wraparound services model, where we're giving them, drug treatment. We're providing all the resources that they need to be successful, so that when we do put them in housing, there are supportive systems there, right there at the housing, to help them be successful along the way, help them with job training, help them to get off drugs, help them with mental health support. So we're making some strides, but gosh, the unhoused population just continues to grow. And I don't know,
Yeah.
and I know because, once we do an abatement of a huge encampment, they go somewhere else, and then other cities do the same thing. They come here. So we have to figure out additional solutions here. Like you said, the politics here are really challenging, but I think that we're finally kind of swinging in another direction, where people are realizing that what we're doing hasn't been working. And so we need to try
Yes.
other solutions. And, it's not a crime to be homeless, but it is crime to be defecating on the sidewalk and doing other things. And we have to address those issues, because it's not fair for those, it's not fair for a 10-year-old kid to be walking to school and seeing, just dysfunction, syringes,
Right.
all the stuff that comes along with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And along those same lines, talking about politics of not only Northern California, but California in general, and as it relates to police, is revolving door criminal justice system that we have. In particular, I'm sure you guys have a big problem, just like we do down here, with the organized retail theft problem and all those sorts of things. How are you guys getting a handle on all those sorts of things? Because we as law enforcement, we do our job and we actually investigate these things and put these people, when we catch them, in jail, but then we see them back out on the street, before we
Right.
finish the report, right?
Right. So the good thing is that there's legislation like trying to repeal some of those laws that, have made it so that people, it's a revolving door. So I hope some of those that legislation goes through, and we can hold people accountable, because without accountability, unfortunately, and I'm not a throw everybody in jail, like that's not the solution for everything, but there has to be some type of consequences for actions. And what we've seen over the last few years is that there's no consequences for people going in, stealing a bunch of stuff, and then, we arrest them, but they're right back out. It's too lucrative for them, and there's no real consequences. So what's going to make them stop? So hopefully, if the legislation passes and we are able to hold people accountable, that some of this, like the looting and all this stuff, will slow down. Um, it's been a challenge for us, but we've been lucky that here in our county, actually have a really good relationship with our DA, and so if there are certain cases that, we feel like they have to be prosecuted, we work with our DA's office to figure out ways to hold people accountable.
As we should. Yep. So let's talk about you as a leader, on your way up the ladder there. Talk about some mistakes that you made along the way that you kind of learned from, and how you corrected those for people that are excuse me, that are looking to become leaders themselves.
Well, I'll say the first mistakes that I made were dating people that I worked with
Okay.
initially as a young officer. Never a good idea. Luckily, I have good relationships with, luckily, nobody's here anymore so now that
Okay.
I'm chief.
Okay. Right.
But
Right.
I was able to maintain good relationships. So that was one of the first challenges. But I would say as I went through the ranks and becoming like a senior leader. Um, One of the challenges I faced as being the only woman in the room was letting emotion take over. So I would talk to the guys that were in the room, my fellow captains. Um, like I said earlier, we'd have conversations that, about how come some people are getting treated one way and some people are getting treated as another way. And I would get what I would call very passionate about my delivery. And I can see the guys in the room sometimes shutting down as if their wife was talking to them. And so I
Yeah.
had to learn how to temper my um tempered,
Yeah.
what I said in a way that they were able to hear what I said so that they wouldn't just kind of shut down, so that they would hear what the actual message was and can not trying to get them to agree with me necessarily, but hear an alternative position than what they had.
Yeah.
And so, just learning little nuances like that along the way to help me be successful. Like I said
Nice.
earlier, making sure that I didn't take anything personally and that I can respond professionally in every way, because there are going to be people that'll test you along the way. And if they know that they can push your buttons and get to you, they're going to continue to push your buttons
Right.
and get to you. And so learning how to, make sure that I can go home and lay out my frustrations, but at work, I try to be at least very tempered and controlled.
Yeah. Let me ask you that, because I'm sure you've heard the old stereotype. You being a African American female, the angry black woman. Have you ever had to kind of fight against that stereotype, and maybe even be not so much you because of that stereotype?
So I actually have not, because I'm actually a very friendly, outgoing person. And what I learned again early on is instead of getting upset, I try to approach things inquisitively. So if there's something that's said that invokes a response, like an emotional response, I try to ask the person to clarify in a way that doesn't feel threatening, that gives them the opportunity to clarify and gives me a better understanding of where they're going or what they're trying to, relay. And so I think again that those types of interactions have helped me to better understand, my staff, and help my staff better understand where I'm coming from. And so I haven't had that necessarily that angry black woman, label that, I see others painted with.
Yeah. Yep. Excellent. Excellent. So let's talk about your career again. Let's talk about something that when you talk to other people about your career, that was something you're really proud of. And it can be an investigation, it could be a program that you started, something that brings back fond memories when you're gone from this profession.
Sure. So I talked about the Family Justice Center, which
Yeah.
I'm very proud of, because we've been able to serve a lot of community members and help them. Um, the other thing that I'm super proud of is within the last year. So as our profession has gone under a lot of scrutiny and
Yes.
changes over the last few years, and it's really taken a toll on police officers. You know that because we can't get people to apply for the jobs that we have opening, and we pay a lot of money, and people still don't want to be police officers. So we know that our profession has taken a huge hit, and which is different because when I came on, there were thousands of people trying to apply
Yeah.
for jobs, and so I wanted to be able to support my staff. I mean, the community is of importance, of course. We're here to serve, but I feel like if I pour into my officers, I pour into my staff, then they're going to pour into the community. And I think that for too many years, we've just focused on what is a community, doing this in the community, doing this in the community. And we haven't focused on what do we need to do to pour into our officers who have taken a hit and have people yelling at them on a day-to-day basis, having people tell them, all these negative things about who they are just because we wear this uniform. And so over the last year, we really focused on organizational wellness here. And there are several components that we focused on. First and foremost is mental wellness. So what I heard from some of my staff was that, every city has an EAP program, but EAP, you go through, you can't get an appointment right away. You spend half your session that you do get with a psychiatrist talking about the profession and the ins and outs. They don't understand our work, which is very different from regular work.
Right.
And so what we did was we did a contract with a, a psychological services group, and it's a group of therapists that solely focus on public safety. So now when I have an officer that's having some challenges, they can pick up the phone and set up an appointment right away to speak with a therapist that knows the ins and outs of policing, and they get 12 free sessions a year. And I don't get any feedback from any of those sessions. I don't know who's going. I pay the bill every month, and I just know that my officers have this resource so that I can make sure that they stay mentally well, because we respond to a lot of difficult calls here. Like I said, we used to have a lot of homicides. We still have homicides, but we still have a challenging community. And so I know that, officers need resources. We focus on physical wellness. We provide an hour of workout time every shift, when they can, if there's, between calls, where they can work out for an hour. We had another group come in to do additional physical testing to test their hearts and testosterone. I guess that's a big thing that guys want tested. So
Mm-hmm.
do blood work. And so we focused on, physical health all the way around. How can we make sure that people are staying healthy? And that's through working out and making sure that they're, a doctor is assessing them. So we did that. Financial health, like we said, officers come into this profession and boys love their toys, and making sure that they're making good financial decisions so that when they are ready to retire, they don't have to go out and get another job. They'll be set.
Yep.
And so we had somebody come in to do financial services, looking at, our CalPERS system and the retirement, and how do you set yourself up as a new officer so that, by the time you're ready to retire in 30 years, you can do so and walk away and be financially healthy. And then we worked on our built environment. So, we had to look at, come to work and you have these sterile white walls, and, things are broken down. We're in a facility that was supposed to be temporary, but we've been here since 2008. So not very temporary. So how can we
Yep.
fix our built environment to make sure that we are spending a lot of time here, making sure people feel comfortable in our environment? And we know that, for millennials and the younger workforce, that they want more of a work-life balance and they want different things. And so we looked at, the Google model of having a video game in our break room and a couch area and lounge and different things that, some of the other private sectors have been doing for years that we're just kind of, trying to catch up with. So looked at all the realms and of wellness within our organization, and I'm trying to make sure that officers are supported in every area of their life so that when we leave this profession many years down the road, we're leaving it in a healthy way. Because I've seen too many people suicides after retirement, even working, alcoholism, womanizing, and just there's so many negative coping mechanisms. And so I want to really shift that and having healthy ways to cope with what we have to deal with on this job.
Yep. Thank you for sharing that. And then on the flip side, real quick, we do see a lot of challenging, things in this profession. Can you talk about a particular case or something that you were involved in that was, challenging, that was something that, you really wouldn't want, the public to see on their own, because this is the sort of thing that we do see out there on a daily basis. Can you talk about a challenging case?
Sure. Man, there's a lot throughout my
Yeah.
career. I think the ones involving kids are the most difficult.
Yep.
Had a man stabbed to death a baby, an infant, that was crying too much. That was a very difficult case to deal with. Just 2 weeks ago, we had a car accident, a DUI driver, and a 6-year-old was killed in that accident. And um, anything that deals with kids just really pulls at the heartstrings because they're just so young and innocent. And um, a few years ago, many years ago now, because I was back as an officer or a sergeant, we had a man accidentally run over his daughter, um, backing out of his driveway. And to get onto scene and see the mother holding her dead daughter, um, those are images that I will never forget. Um, I was just telling somebody the other day, we were driving through the city on our way somewhere, and they said something about, my work here, and I, s- I would never give or I love the time that I've spent here, but I can drive through this city and have those places that I pass by on a daily basis, or even if I drive by every now and then, and the image of, holding somebody's hand while they were dying will come to
Yes.
mind in different areas of the city. And so those are the challenging things that I don't think will ever leave me.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially the ones involving children, like you said, because, we're both parents
Right.
and we can both see that as well. So yeah, those are real challenging. Yep. So you've been the chief a number of years. Where do you see yourself in the next 5?
Oh, retired.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I can retire next year. I don't know if I will or not. You know, I depend on God to lead me and lead me to where He wants me to be. I'm in service to Him. So definitely within 5 years, I will be retired from this job, but I probably won't be retired altogether. Feel like I'm still young. I have a lot to offer, so
Absolutely.
I will be doing something else. I just haven't figured out what that something else is going to be yet.
Yeah. Sounds like you're a religious person, so involved with the church, maybe.
Yep, True Vine Ministries in Oakland. Yes.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, good luck with that, and I'm sure whatever you decide to do, you'll take it to the utmost and achieve whatever you decide to do with your life afterwards. Before I get you out of here, how about some words of wisdom for anyone that's aspiring to be in this profession? You just swore in 5 today, so how about some words of wisdom for anyone thinking to get into law enforcement today?
Sure. So this profession needs good people, people that are willing to serve our communities. For too many years, we've just been enforcement driven, and we need people that are going to be in service to our community, people that are going to really focus on the community's needs and really connect with resources and not just have that enforcement mentality. So I urge people that want to give back to the communities that they were raised in, give back to the people, give back. Um, to apply and serve your community in a way that the community will be proud. There's just been too many years with the dysfunction of our profession that we have to get on track, and we have to get the right people in these positions. And until we have all the right people in the positions, we're going to have the incidents that continue to occur across the nation that really um, put a wedge between community and law enforcement.
Yeah, absolutely. And Richmond's hiring, right?
We are hiring. We're hiring for police officers. We're hiring for dispatchers. We have lots of positions available. We actually have a really competitive pay. And so I encourage you to apply. Join richmondpd.net.
All right. We'll get that in the episode. All right, Chief. Hey, I appreciate you you stopping by and sharing some of that insight and knowledge with us. I really appreciate you. Be safe up there, and we'll talk soon.
Good to talk to you again.
All right, take care.
Take care.
All right, now that was dope, right? Hey, I want to thank Chief Bisa French for spending some time with us here on the Black and Blue podcast. I really enjoyed our conversation, Chief, and I wish you much success in everything you do. You guys out there enjoying my conversation with Chief French? Let me know by leaving a comment down below. And don't forget to like and share this episode as well. I'll be back before you know with another awesome story from a minority in law enforcement. But till then, y'all know the phrase, stay black in blue. I'll holler at you. Peace.
This has been a Maitre D Entertainment presentation.